Now, another thing you mentioned, Pete, is this kidney stone issue. So I have a video on kidney stones. I did a review of the dietary practices that are associated with kidney stone formation and like a meta-analysis of or literature review of that. And I made a video on it before, but I've never had them myself. But when you mentioned it to me today, I was thinking, is it possible that kidney stones are associated with increased vulnerability to CKD, chronic kidney disease? So I did a little searching and I found out, to my surprise, yes, absolutely. Tons of meta-analyses show, number one, that people who develop kidney stones are more likely to develop chronic kidney disease later in life, and that that potentially the development of kidney stones itself represents an acute injury to the kidney that then causes damage to the kidney in the long term. So something to be aware of.
Yeah, but it was
Pete,
weird because
no, go for it. Go for it.
No, it was like it started back in December, and like I was peeing pink, and I was like, "Holy cats, what's going on here?" I thought I was like dying, and then I went in, and they're like, "Oh, it's just there's a lot of blood in your urine, but it's just kidney stones." Because I was having some back pain the week before, and then like a month later, it happened again, but it was much milder, and it would always go away within like 12 hours, and so it kept happening for like every month, and I was like, "I don't know what's going on. My kidney functions are fine." I did a urinalysis. My urinalysis, nothing came back remarkable at all. It was all normal. And so at first it got a little darker that first time, and now it would get like light pink. And I was like, what in the heck is going on here? And it goes away 12 hours.
Wow.
So there might be a kidney stone present, but it irritates tissue through movement. And then it aggravates the nephrons or the glomeruli, one or the other. And then it, causes some trauma and leaks blood into the urine. But when you check your urine, there's no blood in it, only visibly sometimes. But when you go for urinalysis, there's no blood in your urine or protein?
No, nothing. Like, it was the weirdest thing. And like, this happened like 3 different times. The first time was the worst because I was flying back. I was pretty dehydrated, which I think exacerbated it. And I was at the airport, like peeing blood, and I'm like freaking out because I've never had that happen. I literally am thinking I'm dying. I'm like, kidneys are failing. I'm nervous. I go to the doctor as soon as we get home from the flight. And then it happened again a couple times, like a month later, and then another month later, but it was much lighter. And it would always stop after like 12 hours. First, my urine would get dark yellow, and then all of a sudden it would switch over to like red. And
you didn't pass a kidney stone.
Well, I saw these little tiny particles that were like, they wasn't, I didn't even hardly feel them. It was like these, so I'm like, I don't know.
Could very well be. My friends who had kidney stones, some of them were tiny, and
that's how it was. And my dad has had a lot of kidney stones.
Oh, really? Yeah, it is genetically transferred, by the way. It is associated in families, for sure.
Did you do an ultrasound on your kidneys to assess if there's still any present?
I haven't.
You should, because the problem is if some of the kidney stones remain behind, and I noticed from several bodybuilders who just left it as is, and they developed some sort of tissue around it, and that goes cancerous. I don't have any evidence. I don't have any evidence to support that, but I've seen it happen with 3 bodybuilders.
That makes sense, yeah.
Because there's like some scar tissue around it because it keeps happening, and they're like, yeah, I'll be fine. Right? And just leave it there, and then some tissue grows around it, and it keeps growing. I had one guy had a tumor like this fucking big.
Wow.
And it
how do you prevent kidney stones, or how do you get rid of them?
I don't remember the details, but a lot of it has to do with your diet, like not eating oxalates, eating citrates, not eating phosphates, your calcium consumption, things like that. I have a video that summarizes very well and with citations.
And then does vitamin D3 contribute to that if you're taking a super high amount of that?
So I'll just put my personal experience. I've taken 5,000. Now, keep in mind, I live in California, and it's hard for me to judge because I'm mixed race, so I can't really tell how much I need of vitamin D because my father's very dark, my mother's very light, and my skin color changes. But anyway, I was taking 5,000 units for a year straight, and I started to find calcification of parts of my body that, like, I decided to develop a mild case of a bunion. But I don't have that in my family, and I don't wear tight shoes or anything like that. So I was like, what the hell's going on? So I dropped the vitamin D, really reduced it. And I was taking vitamin K and everything else, and not even consuming calcium much. And immediately the bunion formation stopped. So I do think that potentially vitamin D can exaggerate calcification in certain areas.
I didn't have anything like this happen until I started taking 10,000 IUs of vitamin D3 every day consistently. So before I was taking vitamin D3 at all, I never had any issues. And I'd been taking it for like about 45 days straight, 10,000 a day. And then this started happening.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, it was right after that.
So
Fascinating.
there's got to be some connection.
I really think it could be. There's so much
Yes.
danger with taking high dose vitamin D. People underestimate it because it's so valuable, but it's a hormone. It's changing so much gene transcription throughout your body.
Yeah.
What's
I
a
still
good
take
dose
about
then for
5,000
vitamin
a day.
D3? Sorry.
I take about 5,000 every day, but most of that is coming from my calcium or my vitamin K supplementation, because it's always combined vitamin K with 2,000 IU's vitamin D3.
Which
So I
brand
get
do you,
most.
do you know? Do you
Gero Formulas. has
I thought
like
so.
a
You're using
K
Gero,
rep.
the vitamin K. I love that one with the 2,000
that's
units of
very,
vitamin D.
Right. So
One of
I
my
take one
favorites.
of those per day, and then sometimes I take a little bit more. I take 2 per day.
Yeah.
But I get about 4,000, 5,000 IU's of vitamin D3 on a daily basis, and then whatever I get from fish, or is that vitamin E? I think there's a little bit of vitamin D3 in my diet, but it mostly should come from sun exposure.
There's D in fish. Yeah, I think so.
But it's I can think with apple cider vinegar, there's a little bit limited evidence that the acetic acid is able to dissolve kidney stones. And I know I use it on a daily basis. So I've had no issues with kidney stones. So I've been using apple cider vinegar and, maybe a little super physiologic amount of vitamin D3 for over a decade.
Well, I don't know, but there's one other thing I noticed, which is, there's this, I don't know if you guys test this, there's asymmetric and symmetric dimethylarginine, which are written as ADMA and SDMA in your biomarkers. I test them mainly because I'm interested because this is associated with hypertension. I mean, arginine is a precursor to nitric oxide, so it's very involved in hypertension. Also, ADMA and SDMA are independent markers for predicting mortality and cardiovascular disease. But I didn't know that there's a movement now in chronic kidney disease research to use SDMA as a biomarker for kidney function. And not only that, but SDMA has been found to be associated with kidney stone formation. So maybe that's another thing that Pete can add to his tests is SDMA and ADMA each time. By the way, for cardiovascular disease, I always add homocysteine and SDMA and ADMA in addition to the lipid stuff and potentially whatever else I'm looking at. Homocysteine also independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease. And people with genes that cause them not to methylate things very well, like myself, often have elevated homocysteine. So it's something that we like to keep track of also. But so you can use SDMA to predict that also, and I think you should check that in your next test if you can.
I think there's some sonic therapy where they use some sort of sonic device in your kidneys to break apart the kidney stones if they're present, and then you're put on an IV to make sure you stay hydrated to pass them. But I think that has shown some evidence to work in certain cases of kidney stone. So ultrasound would probably be the first step, and then see if there's some sort of sonic therapy. I'm not sure what it's called, to help pass them or break them apart so you can pass them if they remain behind. Because the last thing you want is them to remain behind and cause some sort of growth, or you pass them when they're literally this big. That's the most excruciating. I've seen it happen to guys where they just go on the floor and like, what the hell's going on? Passing a kidney stone. Yeah, it's fucked up,
So
but your creatinine and cystatin C has been in range, right? Or you haven't checked your cystatin C? I can't remember seeing that on your blood work.
No, I haven't checked that. Creatinine was like 1.03, BUN was 13, and then C-reactive protein was less than 0.3, and GFR was 98.
So by the way, SDMA is also not associated by your body mass, so it can be used, but it's not used for the eGFR calculation. So it's a separate metric.